The RockWorks utilities are a collection of about 150 programs that don't rely on data within the RockWorks Borehole Manager relational database. Instead, most of these utilities process data that is stored within a non-relational spreadsheet-style data manager called the RockWorks Datasheet. This exercise will use an existing sample datasheet to demonstrate how the utilities work. Click on the Project Manager tab. Expand the Datasheet Files heading within the Project Manager pane. Scroll down and select the hydrochem_all.rwdat file. rwdat is the extension used to designate a RockWorks datasheet file. This hydrochemistry datasheet shows well IDs, location information, and different ion concentrations in parts per million in a row and column format with each row representing a different sample site. Let's start by experimenting with changing column appearances and column data types. Column widths can be adjusted by dragging the vertical divider lines, or the View Optimize option will automatically set the column widths to the maximum width of items within each column. Right-click on a column title, and a pop-up menu will appear. Click on the Column Properties option. This will display the Datasheet Setup pane. Use the green arrows to select a column. To change a column title, type the new title into the Data column field. The Content Type and Units group is where we define the type of data that is contained within the currently highlighted column. In this example, the column titled X represents geographic XY data expressed in UTM meters. RockWorks will use this information to automatically convert the datasheet coordinates to the specified project coordinates when creating maps and diagrams. In order for these automatic conversions to work correctly, the Coordinate System tab should be configured to define the system used by the datasheet contents. Let's look at the symbol column. It is designated as a vector symbol column. Consequently, if a cell within this column is double-clicked, you will be presented with a menu that allows you to pick a different symbol. A column that is designated as a vector symbol column will also tell the program to display the symbol within the datasheet cell.
For the sake of comparison, if we change the content type to text, the column will list the symbol number and the color with a / delimiter, which is hardly intuitive. So, the content type settings can do three things. Number 1, they determine how the data is displayed. Number 2, they determine what happens when the user tries to edit a cell. And number 3, they determine how the data is processed.
In this exercise, we'll use one of the utilities programs to create a map based on the datasheet that was introduced within the previous exercise. Select the Point Symbols program from the Maps pull-down within the Utilities group. The program starts out by asking which columns contain the XY coordinates for the points. Clicking on one of these items will display a list of the data columns within the currently loaded datasheet. This means that your datasheet columns do not need to be in any specific order to work within the utilities. This makes life much easier when copy-pasting data from existing Excel sheets into the RockWorks datasheet. Set the X or easting to the column titled X and set the Y or northing to the column titled Y. Enable the option labeled Column-Based Vector Symbols. Set the symbol column to the column titled Symbol. Set the dimensions to uniform with a size of 2. Please note that the size is a percentage of the project dimensions, meaning that labels will stay the same size relative to the output size. Enable the symbol labels and set the Northeast label to the ID column. Set the leader lines to the 4th option. Select the Dimensions tab and set the initial offset and font size to 2.0 and turn on the automatic offset to prevent the labels from plotting over other labels and/or symbols. Click on the Continue button. You should now see a map that depicts the datasheet samples. Let's jazz this up a bit. Click on the Options tab. Turn on the proportional shapes and set the dimensions to variable based on the sodium content, such that the radii proportionally vary from 0 to 5%. Set the color to continuous, ranging from white to red based on the sodium magnitude. Press the Continue button. You should now see a map that shows the sodium magnitudes as proportionally filled circles with the superimposed well-type symbols and well-ID labels. Finally, let's add a background image, so click on the Options tab. Turn on the background image option, select the project image option, and press the Continue button. You should now see a map with the background image and the data points.
In this exercise, we'll create contours based on RWGRD models similar to those created for stratigraphic surfaces in the Borehole Manager. Let's create a map showing sodium concentrations. Choose the ModOps Grid Create XYZ to Grid program. Choose the Datasheet option as the grid model data source. Make sure that the easting and northing columns are correctly defined. Set the Z or elevation column to Na or sodium. Select Grid File and enter the output file name as na.rwgrd. Upper and lowercase letters can be used for the file name but are not required. Choose the inverse distance option from the algorithm list. Make sure that the sector-based searching is left unchecked. Select the 2D grid map option. Turn on the contour lines, labeled axes, and map overlays options. Within the map overlays page, turn on the point symbols, then turn on the column-based vector symbols, and set the symbol column to the column titled Symbol. Activate the Symbol Labels option. Uncheck the 3D grid diagram option, click the Continue button, and you should get a contour map that looks similar to this. Click on the Save button within the RockPlot 2D window and save your contour map as sodiumcontours.rw2d. Close the XYZ to Grid program.
Select the Pie Charts option from the Utilities Maps pull-down menu. Make sure that the easting and northing fields are correctly mapped to the datasheet columns. Click on the Components tab and check the boxes to include sodium, potassium, calcium, and magnesium within the pie charts. Click on the Diagram Options tab and set the dimensions to Fixed at a size of 2.0. Set the inner radius to 1.0 to allow space for a symbol within the center of the pie chart. Enable the Labels option. Turn on the Automatic Offset option. This will prevent the pie charts from overplotting each other. We'll skip over the nuances of how these offset diagrams can be fine-tuned. Instead, you're encouraged to experiment with these settings. Turn on the Labeled Axes option and delete the axes titles because they're typically unnecessary. Click the Continue button and you should see a map with a new RockPlot 2D tab that looks something like this. Now, let's enhance this map with some additional features. Click on the Options tab. Select the Components tab and check the Explode option for the potassium column. This will move the selected pie slice outward from the midpoint so that it's implicitly highlighted. Next, enable the Background Image option and select the project image. Click on the Image Opacity tab and set the opacity to 25%. Enable the Map Overlays option and select the point symbols. Turn on the column-based vector symbols and set the symbol column to the column titled Symbols. Enable the symbol labels and set the northeast label to the column titled ID. This will plot the designated symbols and their associated labels inside the minimum radius area within the pie charts. Click the Continue button and you should see a map that looks something like this. Select the RockPlot 2D file Save option and save the map as piechartmap.rp2d.
Activate the Piper program located within the Utilities Hydrochem pull-down menu. In its default configuration, this program requires 10 different columns of data, so take your time to make sure that cations and anions are correctly assigned to the proper columns within the datasheet. Click on the Diagram Options tab, check every option, and click the Continue button. You'll now see a diagram that is similar to this within a new RockPlot 2D tab. Although it is possible to make changes to this diagram by using the editing tools within the RockPlot 2D window, we recommend that the diagram be regenerated after the necessary changes have been made within the Diagrams Options submenu. This will eliminate the hassle of editing the diagram whenever the data changes, because the program will remember the last used settings. When you are finished, close the Piper diagram. Launch the STIF program from the Utilities Hydrochem pull-down menu. Notice that the Input Columns menu is identical to the Input Columns menu within the Piper program, and the selected column titles are shared. This eliminates the need to re-specify the input columns. Click on the Diagram Options tab and select the Page Layout option. Set the polygons per page to 10 to create 2 separate diagrams and click on the Continue button. Given that we have 15 samples in the datasheet, the first 10 will be shown on the first page and the remaining 5 will be shown on the second page. We encourage you to try out the Durov, Schuler, and STIF map programs on your own because they share the same input.